What's affecting our nation? This is Talk with the Nation, presented by the Premier, the Honorable McKeeva Bush on Vibe FM.
Welcome back to Talk with the Nation here on Vibe 98.9. We're going to open up the phone lines for you to give us a call at 946-9898. We have our guests in studio talking about the new changes to the traffic law, which takes effect this Friday, September 21st. We have Mr. Richard Sims, the Deputy Director of the Department of Vehicle and Driver's Licensing. He's here and he's going to finish up a few points with us, the major points and changes that are going to take place, and then he will be leaving us. Then we'll be joined by Acting Superintendent, RCIPS Acting Superintendent Angelique Howell, to talk about how the law will be imposed and how the officers of the RCIPS will be doing that. All right, Mr. Sims, can you continue with your points for our listeners?
Yes, Donna, thank you. And I just have two more points to make, and as you just said, I'll be on my way. Under Section 115 of the law, which introduces the ban on wheel clamping.
Right.
And, that's one of the controversial things that's been going on for a while. So the decision is now no wheel clamping by anybody, not even the RCIPS can clamp. All right, so that's total ban.
Wow.
All right. And the next change, we've introduced the new sections from 121 to 123 that provides the licensing of vehicle driving instructors.
Right.
Now,
big change.
Yes, currently, as it stands, all that is required for a driving instructor is to just go and get a trade and business license and start teaching people how to drive.
Oh, not good enough.
And absolutely not. And with no set standards, and everybody is doing their own thing, and we have no control over what they're teaching or anything like that. But with the introduction of this new section, will give us the authority now then to license and regulate those guys, the way how they teach people how to drive, the standard of teaching, and this will assist us in the future. And when you look at the requirements we have to meet internationally. This is, when you talk about the Geneva Convention and exchanging of driver's license and so on, you find that one of the requirements that they look at in terms of, seeing whether they should grant our license to be reciprocal in exchange, is that they look at your driving records and the standard of driving. And currently, when you look at how the system is, we don't have that sort of set standard structure across the board.
Okay.
So with this introduction, then it will now give us a better footing, for example, when it comes to selling our product overseas, to say, listen, here's now what the Cayman Islands has done and what we're doing, how we can better have, or when you go to England, the United Kingdom, or wherever, the US, Canada, you can just present your license for exchange and say, yes, you know what, we've seen your driving standard, they're up to international standards, and there's no requirement then for us to sit or any of their written or practical tests, because they see that the standards are up to par and they're recognized internationally.
Okay, so it's safe to say, I know you got to go, but it's safe to say that all the current driving instructors who are on Cayman's roads will from now on have to go through a regulation process, be monitored, and have to meet those standards.
Absolutely. And because they'll be required to pass written examinations, they'll be required to pass practical examinations.
Oh, that's great.
So, to be properly tested. And what we'll do in the first year of the introduction of this law, once this law comes into effect on Friday, they will be grandfathered in the program. Okay. This will give them some time to bring themselves up to speed, to study the materials that we have, because they will now supply them with certain materials that they will have to study,
okay,
and to bring themselves up to standard. So, some real interesting changes and, to enhance our driving skills in the Cayman Islands.
Okay, Mr. Sims, I thank you so much for your time. We're here and you're listening to Talk with the Nation, a show brought to you by the Premier and Vibe 98.9. We'll be back. We're going to take a quick break and come back with you in just a few minutes.
What's affecting our nation? This is Talk with the Nation, presented by the Premier, the Honorable McKeeva Bush on Vibe FM.
Welcome back to the show here on Vibe 98.9 FM. We are going to open up the phone lines again for our listeners out there who may be interested in giving us a call. We're talking about the changes to the traffic law, which comes into effect in less than 48 hours here in the Cayman Islands. That number to call us at is 946-9898. Now, we're just being joined by Acting Superintendent, that's RCIPS Acting Superintendent, Ms. Angelique Howell. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Donna.
Angelique is known to many people out there in the media world because she has become a really great spokesperson for the RCIPS over the years, and she's going to be talking about how the officers of the RCIPS are going to be imposing these fines and you know, the new laws, the changes to the new law. We're going to go over now, though, to Mr. David Dixon. He's the director of the Department of Vehicle Licensing, Drivers and Vehicle Licensing, to talk a little bit about some of the other changes that are going to be taking place. One of the things that I wanted to address with Mr. Dixon is parking and disabled spots. What changes are going to be taking place there, Mr. Dixon?
Parking in disabled spots will now be a ticketable offense, irrespective whether it is commercial or private property. Mm-hmm. And we have changed the definition in Section 2 of the traffic law to accommodate that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Continue.
So if we look at the definition in Section 2, mm-hmm. as it relates to a public place, we would actually see what the requirements are. Is that means a place to which the public has access as of right, mm-hmm. without payment, upon payment, or upon invitation express or implied, and includes commercial property to which persons attending for commercial purposes are allowed access by the owner of those premises upon payment of a fee or not.
For instance, most businesses on the island are required to have at least one parking space, if not more. Yeah? So those are the kinds of areas that you're talking about. What about speeding in school zones? That's something that happens frequently here on the island. Can we talk a little bit about that, Angelique?
Yes, Donna. That is also one of the offenses that we will be enforcing because, of course, you know that when you're within the school zones, it's very dangerous for our children. So we definitely will be paying some attention to that and enforcing the law around that as well.
Okay. Any word on exactly what those kinds of fines are going to be? How much people are going to have to pay for, let's say, for instance, if they speed in a school zone? I think it's over 15 miles per hour, correct?
I believe that fine gone to $100.
$100.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're listening in and you're caught speeding in a school zone anywhere on the islands, Cayman Brac or here on Grand Cayman, you could get a ticket of up to $100. I don't think too many of us can afford those these days.
And Donna,
Mr. Heights?
From a ministry perspective, you know, the government had audience with a lot of different stakeholders who talked about these kind of issues,
right.
You know, the disabled parking spots, the speeding while you're in a school zone, and you know, we got a lot of calls and from parents and stuff that were concerned about it. Mm-hmm. And you know, we're a modern society that, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, shouldn't be tolerated to a certain extent, and so we thought that we could bring it into the law. Mm-hmm. You have to have a what do you call it, a disabled tag to now park in that disabled spot.
Right.
And I guess you get those at a hospital or doctor's office or whatever.
Okay. What about utility workers? We always see, workers from, the Water Authority, Cable and Wireless, or Lime, Digicel, various companies always working on the road. I understand that those folks will now be protected under the law. Who cares to speak to that?
I will, Donna, thanks. That was something that was lacking also in the old traffic ticket regulations. Mm-hmm. It is now a $200 fine offense for anyone failing to obey any signs, signals, directions given at such roadworks, school zones, roadblocks, or barriers that are manned by our temporary road workers. Mm-hmm. And that would take us actually to sections 92, 106, 109, and 117 of the new traffic law. Mm. Also, you will see as well, we cover the ticketable offense of failing to obey such signs and signals in such temporary speed zones. That too is a $200 fine.
Okay, I mean, and just from a human perspective, if I may add a few words here, you see people working on the road. It's a dangerous job to be working on the roads, and it's just so inconsiderate, I think, for drivers to not pay attention to their fellow residents and colleagues out on the road. Let's get back to the area of the law where changes are made. The clamping has been dropped, but we're picking up on towing now. I understand the police is going to be able to tow vehicles. Angelique, you want to care to speak to that?
Well, yes, Donna, that is what the law says, that we can authorize or instruct for a vehicle to be towed if it is parked illegal or obstructing. Mm-hmm. What we intend to do as it relates to the enforcement of that, mm-hmm. we would have to subcontract this job as it relates to the towing, because we do not have a wrecker of our own to do that job. Right. We do find that there will be a few challenges that we might have to revisit, as the law currently states $40 for the towing fee. Mm-hmm. But in fact, when you subcontract, the contractors are charging us $100.
Right.
So that is something that we will definitely have to look at to address in before we can take that on, because we would want to ask who is going to pay the $60, the additional $60.
Maybe you'll have more people opening up towing companies, and that will drive the cost down somehow.
Well,
it's
if they're willing
business
to take it for $40, then we are faced with another challenge as it relates to that. The law says that any place that the commissioner authorized, and the only place that we have is our pound, which is at the traffic management department, which is not very big anyway. Right. So there are some logistics that need to look at, but nonetheless, we will enforce the law as best as we can in that regard. Some of the offenses, though, although it's a towing, they are still ticketable. Yes. So we will exercise that as much as we can. But of course, in extreme circumstances, of course, we will be enforcing the law in relation to the towing.
I think what they do in some countries, if I may add my own experience and thoughts here, when it comes to towing, is they basically officers would go out, and if they found that you were parked in an area you shouldn't have been parked in, rather than sending out a tow truck, they would actually mail you a ticket in the mail or have it hand delivered by somebody to make sure that you had it in hand, and if you didn't pay it by a certain date, then that became an offense. So I mean, that's one way of kind of not having to call out the tow truck every minute.
Well, that is something that we actually, not the mailing part of it, but what we, in the old traffic law, we were allowed to place tickets on vehicles.
Right.
And then the other part of it would go into the courts.
Right.
And if the person don't pay, then of course a warrant would be issued for their arrest.
Yeah. They could always say, though, that they didn't see it.
Well, we usually have it on adhesive tapes that it stick on the glass. So it's kind of hard for you to say you not see it. But if you're the owner, it's for you to take that responsibility.
Sure.
To ensure that your car is parked or you're driving a certain way. So you'll be responsible, yes.
Now, there are going to be new fines put in place, too, for things like illegal parking. And there's going to be a daily pound fee, as far as I can understand, once your car has been impounded. Anybody care to talk to that? I do have some details on it here, but I know that there's going to be an illegal parking fee, which is, I think, $100. In the event that a car is towed.
$10.
Yeah,
it's
$10
for the daily pound, which, if we are going to tow a vehicle for $40, then the person only charged $10. We would need to look at that as well.
Sure,
that's another little challenge there that need to sort out.
Okay, so this is a work in progress.
Yes.
With some of the changes. How are the RCIPS officers preparing themselves to address all of these changes, Angelique?
Well, the first thing that we did, Donna, we work along with the ministry and the vehicle licensing department as it relates to the education, to educate people on what is coming and how we are going to deal with things.
Right.
Now, starting Friday, we are shifting from the education now onto enforcement.
Right.
We will be carrying out a number of checks at various places. I won't say at this time, where we will be looking out for the many offenses.
Right.
Cell phone use is one of them.
Right.
And persons can expect to be prosecuted, given a ticket, or if it's not a ticketable offense, they will be one for intended prosecution, of course. So we are prepared. We have our new ticket books with all our offenses, which will be given to our officers. So if an officer is out there writing a ticket, instead of trying to figure out what section of the law it comes under, we have that inserted in our ticket books as well, so that officers are well versed on how to properly write a ticket for members of the public.
Yes. Makes it more efficient. One of the other things, too, I don't know who wants to address this, is e-ticketing and paying fines online. How is that going to work? And that's certainly something that's new.
Okay, well, that is going to be new, but at the moment we are not there yet.
Okay.
The law did speak about that. We have actually created a e-ticket format that the Commissioner of Police approved, but that we are not there yet, because we have to work with the courts to put that online, and we are still working on that aspect of it. So I would say within the next couple of months, we probably will see that come online. But for right now, we will be working with our ticket books. But e-ticketing is something that is approved for us to use as well.
Okay. Getting back to school zones and so forth, let's talk a little bit about school buses. It seems that a lot of drivers, and I've seen this myself, still don't know that you have to. If a school bus is stopped, they just drive past the buses. What kind of changes are being made to address that? Mr. Dixon, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, if there are any changes there that have been put in place that will come into effect.
That too, Donna, is a ticketable offense under the traffic ticket regulations.
Okay.
You must stop for school buses that are setting down or picking up passengers. And we've also addressed that into our new road code,
right?
Which can be found at Rules 8.
Oh, okay. Okay. What about things like seatbelt? Anything affected by traffic changes affected by seatbelt with the seatbelt law?
Yes, as it relates to seatbelt, the changes that come about, it is now ticketable. Before, we would have to warn somebody for intended prosecution, and it would be to prepare a traffic offense file and send to the court. Now we can just write a ticket, which is much easier. So that is the change that we have now with that.
Some other things that I want to address: public transport buses, heavy equipment trucks that are not properly covered. Any new changes coming into effect for those?
Well, I don't think there are any new changes as it relates to that. It still stands that if the vehicle is not properly covered, then you are liable.
Right.
The only changes I would say, most of those ticket offenses that were $25 are now $100.
Okay.
So those you can see the increase in the fees, but what was required before is still there.
Can we expect a lot more police presence on the roads?
Well, we will do our best.
Okay.
Like everybody else, we struggle, but we try.
All right, we're going to take a break here on Talk with the Nation. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion about changes to the traffic law that comes into effect on Friday of this week. That's the 21st of September. Again, you can give us a call if you have a question or a comment or some feedback for our guests here in the studio. That number to call is 946-9898. Again, you're listening to Talk with the Nation here on Vibe 98.9. We'll be right back.
Presented by the Honorable McKeeva Bush returns on Vibe FM.
All right, and welcome back to the show. Thank you for listening in here on Talk with the Nation. We are talking about changes to the current traffic law here in the Cayman Islands. It comes into effect this Friday, and it will affect you in some way, shape, or form, whether you're a driver or you're just passenger in a car, or you're about to learn how to drive, whether you're just coming to the Cayman Islands, it will affect you in some way. Joining me in the studio are the RCIPS Acting Superintendent Angelique Howell, along with Mr. Tristan Hides. He's the Deputy Chief Officer from the Ministry of Administration Works and Lands and Agriculture, and Mr. David Dixon. He is the director for the Department of Vehicle and Driver Licensing. We do have a caller on the line. Caller, thank you so much for calling Talk with the Nation. Do you have a question or comment for our guests on this topic?
Yes, ma'am. I sometimes you see the policemen, they're the biggest ones on the telephone when they're driving.
Oh, okay. I will address that. Get one of our guests to address that for you. I think that is part of the changes that have come about, and I will get maybe Ms. Angelique Howell to address that for you. Thank you for calling Talk with the Nation here on Vibe 98.9. Angelique, you want to address that?
Well, thank you, caller, for that comment. It's not lost on us that we too like to use our cell phones. But what I can say, although the law says that we are exempt when on duty, we have taken an internal decision. Our Commissioner of Police has taken an internal decision that our officers will not be allowed to use cell phones whilst they are driving police vehicles. So just as members of the public, we will be adhering to the law as well. We are not even encouraging hands-free within the vehicles. That is to show how far we intend to go by not using cell phones whilst driving police vehicles. Of course, if the officers are in their private vehicles, they are allowed to use their hands-free. They are not exempt, and like any member of the public, if they, foul the law, they will be prosecuted and issue a ticket as well. So we are not exempt at all. We although it says we are exempt, but our practices, we will be abiding like everybody else and not using cell phones whilst driving.
All right, Angelique, thank you for addressing that comment made by one of our listeners out there. I want to talk a little bit about the definition to taxis. We brought this up during the break. Mr. Hides, can you talk a little bit about the taxi changes to the definition of taxis for us?
Yeah, sure. Well, taxis used to be up to 9 passengers. And simply put, we've increased it to 15. Mm-hmm. The ministry, again, got audience from the taxi population that, they were having to buy these buses that were 15-person capacity.
Okay.
But they couldn't get it insured, and they had to take one seat out to get it licensed because obviously that last seat was capable of holding people.
Right.
And so they wanted, they wanted to maximize their costs. So
right.
We increased it to 15, as well as buses now have also gone to 15. So
buses as in tour buses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should help the taxi population as well. That it can they can now fill their cars up with people, paying passengers, so to speak.
Okay. What about public transport buses, the little minivans that we see all over the roads, going from one district to another with those folks out there who may not have their own transportation? Any changes for them?
There have been no significant changes, Donna, no more that they are allowed beyond the 15-seat capacity, again, due to the market demand and the representation that we had from those individuals.
Okay. I guess it is public knowledge that those buses, a lot of the drivers, I wouldn't say a lot of the drivers, but some drivers can actually be reckless. And we often hear complaints from the public on this. Does the RCIPS intend to up the ante when it comes to addressing those issues with the minivans that some drivers seem to drive so recklessly sometimes?
Absolutely. It may fall under careless or inconsiderate driving or even dangerous driving. Whatever offense, it falls under, the RCIPS definitely will be prosecuting persons for this offense. Mm-hmm. We receive many complaints that you have bus drivers, district bus drivers and taxi drivers just driving like it's nobody's business. Well, they need to understand that we will definitely be prosecuting because they are putting not only their lives but the lives of their passengers and other road users at risk.
Okay. I wanted to address the issue as well that I mentioned during the break about dangerous driving and the difference between inconsiderate and careless and dangerous driving. Can someone talk a little bit about this a little bit more extensively. We know over the years through our court systems that, you know, a number of our young men have lost their lives, and some of their passengers have lost their lives because of dangerous driving, maybe from speeding or you know, being careless on the road. So can we talk a little bit more about the changes that are going to come about there, and what is considered dangerous driving, inconsiderate driving, careless driving?
I will address the careless and inconsiderate driving part of it, and maybe one of my colleagues can take on the other one. So we share it, yeah?
Okay, sure.
Okay. The law says, Section 77(1), a person who drives a vehicle or animal, they need to understand that too, animal on a road without care and attention or without reasonable consideration for other persons commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction for a fine of $1,000 or imprisonment of a term of 6 months or both. So the careless part of it, driving without care and attention, and the inconsiderate part of it, without reasonable consideration. So I was listening to the show earlier. So if somebody is driving along and they decided to splash someone, I think you mentioned it before, that would fall under reasonable consideration. They did not give reasonable consideration to other road users.
Right.
Driving without due care and attention, of course, on your cell phone, not paying attention, and then you knock somebody down or you run up into someone.
Right.
The rear of someone or even animal, anything.
Right.
So those are the two aspects of it. The dangerous driving didn't really change, but Mr. Dixon, you want to take that on, or?
As Mr. Sims reiterated early on, the dangerous driving aspect has to do with the speed, the manner, or condition which is dangerous to the public, and you, the driver, having regard to all the circumstances of the case, including the nature, condition, and use of the road or place, and the amount of traffic which is actual at the time, or which you might reasonably expect to be there at the time.
Okay. I know this may seem funny to my guests and to others out there who are listening, but what about when people have, let's say, for instance, their horse on the road? We know it's not uncommon for people to ride their horses on the road, and the road, you know, the horses make mess, they hold up traffic. What about that? Anything for those folks?
Section 77(1) say a person who drives a vehicle or animal, so I think we have it covered, Donna.
Okay.
Also, Donna, under the old road code, that aspect was not addressed. We have now addressed that in Rule 11, page 59 to 61, that addresses the use of animals or horse riders on a road. Okay. So you must comply, and like again, any failure to comply with the road code is a ticketable offense.
Okay. I was reading somewhere that there's a fine for failing to comply with a police signal in cases where they're directing traffic. Who'd like to speak to that?
Well, that is something that has always been there.
Okay.
Yeah, failing to comply with police signal or instructions. So that is not new.
Okay.
I believe that is raised to $100 though. So.
Okay. So it's increased. And then failing to give way to a police car, the fee there was $20 and it's now gone up to
$100. Most of those fees, as I said, that were $20 and $25 gone up to $100.
Okay. And the same goes for any emergency vehicle? Any
emergency vehicles, yes.
Okay. What about things like police records? People got to go get them all the time. DVDL is always filled with people going to get copies of their police records. Are there increases in fees there as well, Mr. Dixon?
There are some increases in those fees as well.
Okay.
We do have, yes, we have some increase there as it relates to police report. That was like $10 for a printout, or if you want a fingerprint, I think it was $10. They are now $100.
Right.
So we do have quite a bit of increase there. The police clearance and police record, that is $25.
Oh wow.
And we also have police photographs. That is now $125. So there are quite a bit of increase. We also have emergency call-out service.
Right.
That is now $50.
Oh.
And that is in the case where out of hours that officers will staff will have to come in to prepare, like,
for instance,
police certificates, like if somebody is going away, an emergency airlifted off the island.
Okay.
And then they would have to come out and they don't have a visa. Then they would need to be processed with a waiver.
Okay.
So we would have to come out to prepare that document for them.
Okay.
Reference letters, $75. An insurance report, $100. But these were $75 and now $100. So
okay, so they haven't increased.
Not too much. Just the police report with incidents and fingerprints and stuff. All of that comes on the police report, and it's now $100.
Okay, all right. We're going to take a break here on Talk with the Nation. We'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Again, give us a call at 946-9898 with your questions or comments. We want to hear from you, and we hope, of course, that you're getting all the facts and about the changes that are coming up in less than 48 hours with our traffic law. We'll be right back. Stay with us.